Hey, what's up, everyone? Kino here, and I just thought I would do a quick reaction video to We Own This City, which is a new show by David Simon and I forget the other creator, George Pelicanos, who was a writer on The Wire. So it's and also the show has a lot of Wire cast on it. So it's definitely feels like something to check out if you're a fan of The Wire. Obviously, this show is different. One, it's a mini series. Two, it's based on a real life story, I believe. I'm not familiar with the real life history at all, but it's not a fictional story like The Wire was. Even though The Wire was very realistic, and they were telling real things that were happening in Baltimore. This is, I think, using real characters, like real people. So that does change things, and we'll talk about that. But, as a Wire fan, I was like, I thought I should check this out, and obviously, this will be useful information to have when I do my Wire videos. So, I just thought I would do a very quick reaction to each episode. There's only, I think, 6 of them total, so it won't take that long to get through. But, I just thought I'd give you my thoughts. So, I had to watch the whole thing first to really get it. Like most David Simon stuff, it's a kind of a complicated story. It's taking place across different timelines. And I've been hearing whispers here and there about people who've watched it, like some criticisms they've had, some complaints, and things they thought were good. And one of the complaints I've seen was that it's kind of hard to follow a little bit, at least until you see the whole thing, I think, until you get the whole picture. Because they're jumping across timelines and it's not always clear, where are we at? We see our main character, I think Wayne Jenkins has his name, played by John Bernthal. We see him at the beginning. He's in his position as a leader of the gun task force, giving the speech about police brutality. A lot of this episode revolves around police brutality. I think the whole series will, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But just to give a kind of a plot summary. But then we cut back to him as a patrol officer on the street. It's funny, he has the same walking stick that that one guy had, Santino, the cop from The Wire who got assigned at the end of the first season from a detective to a foot patrol. He's got the same kind of walking stick, and we see him harassing people. So definitely a bad cop. Interspersed in this again is a drug investigation by, I think it's Baltimore County. They differentiate between the city police and the county police. So we have those characters, one of which is played by Poot, which is funny to see him there, and as a cop instead of criminal. Speaking of which, we also have Jamie Hector as who played oh my god, I'm blanking on the name. Marlowe from The Wire. Now he's a cop too, so they're playing against type. We have Jay Landsman. The actor Jay Landsman, not the real Jay Landsman. The fat guy from The Wire. He's now the police commissioner. I think there was some other people I saw, but I wasn't 100% sure. I'm looking at the names right now on HBO, but regardless, not super important, but it's just cool to see the cast again. I know they all won't be here. Of course, unfortunately, Michael K. Williams passed away, and I know he's not the only one who's no longer around, but it's just cool to see them back in Baltimore, in a David Simon show. So we have that going on. We have the civil rights thing. The police killed a civilian, a person, and it caused riots in the city, and now they're kind of dealing with the aftermath of it. Again, I think this is real life stuff. I'm not familiar with Baltimore crimes or news or anything. So and this is set in 2015 before Trump becomes president. So they mentioned that kind of briefly. Now one of the things I was worried about as I watched this was, is this going to be, you know, all woke politics? Now, The Wire has elements of that. The Wire has elements that are woke, right? Justifiably so, I think, in my opinion. Like, it was a very fair picture of all sides. We saw cops committing police brutality, and we saw, you know, the injustice that the city gives. It's horrible. What I was worried, though, is that this show would go way too far, you know, to one side, given the political climate we live in today. You know, I trust David Simon. I think he's a fantastic, you know, creator. But, you know, people change, right, as the politics change, and, you know, this HBO changes too. So I'm worried, like, is this show going to give a fair shake? And again, I know this is a real life story, so, you know, if all the cops involved are, like, corrupt and evil, right, that might just be what the events were. But, you know, this is a show, and I have to judge it as a show. So, you know, any comments like, oh, but this is actually how it happened, like, cool, I understand that, not going against that, but I'm 100% sure there are, you know, exaggerating elements and changing elements to fit the story, and so I have to judge it as a story. So, as I review each episode, I am going to keep that in mind, that, you know, regardless of the history, I still want a fair shake. Like, I don't want to, like, what I hate so much about modern politics is, like, in shows, is how they kind of make caricatures out of everyone. Like, you know, it's the evil white cops that are the problem with everything, and otherwise everything would be fine. From this first episode, I don't quite know if they're going to do that. I hope they don't. It seems like they might not do that, but again, I have to see the whole thing first. This is going to be focusing much more on the cops. It didn't look like we get featured too many, like, criminals aside from there is a group of criminals, I think, involved, the ones who kill the target, Anderson, and afterward, okay, and so I wasn't 100% sure what was happening, and I again, I'm kind of dumb when I'm watching these. I don't quite get it the first watch. I had to watch it a couple of times, but I think what the implication was that the police were maybe using these criminals to, like, help them get, like, guns and get arrests, because I'm pretty sure the guys at the strip club, whatever, are just, you know, criminals, not cops. Maybe they are, maybe they're just really that bad cops, but I think, afterwards they had the police uniform on, and at least what I took from just literally just watching it was that they were criminals who I guess the police are using to, you know, help them figure out where the guns are and stuff. And that might be why Jenkins gets arrested at the end of this episode. Again, we have to see how it plays out, but I don't know if I'm dead wrong and I missed it completely, but that's kind of what I thought. But I feel like I've rambled on enough. I don't want to make these videos too long here. This is going to be kind of a quick review as a mini-series, but I'll get more to the point in future episodes here. But interesting start. Like I said, I'm interested to see where it goes. I hope it doesn't, you know, cater too much to modern politics and instead gives a really fair and accurate depiction of the world. But we'll really have to see. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'm going to probably watch the next one right now. So talk to you then. And I'm back with the next episode here. It's nice that they're not names. I don't have to remember what the names are. This is just part 2. Now, a couple things I forgot to mention last one. One, I apologize if you can hear the fan running. I know it creates some background noise, and I also just realized my mic was a little bit too far away. But it is hot in here, and you're just going to have to deal with it. The other thing I wanted to mention last episode was the title sequence. It reminded me a lot of Homicide, Life on the Street, which was David Simon's first show. I've been very slowly watching my way through that. I've been recording my reactions, so you guys will get that eventually, but that'll be probably a while down the line. But the black and white like photos and stuff reminded me very much of that title sequence, and we get a lot of callbacks to not only David Simon's previous work, but also The Wire. We get a lot of references. I don't know if I'd call them references or callbacks because one of the things I've also been reading David Simon's book, Homicide: A Year on the Killing Streets, or I guess technically I've been listening to the audiobook. But a lot of lines and events from The Wire and also Homicide were first in that book. And he's kind of been reusing them many times. So I don't know if I'd call them references or not, but the whole, like, the bad guys have to get lucky every single time. We only have to get lucky once. Obviously, they have a wire on, non-pertinent, that stuff's on there again. There's a line in this episode from the guy training Jenkins in the past is like, there's no greater dictatorship in America than a beat cop in his post. Again, I think that's from the book too. And it was also, something McNulty said. So, a lot of callbacks to The Wire. I'm not a huge fan of them, to be honest, because they just remind me that I'm not watching The Wire, and I kind of wish I was. Not saying the show is not good, but it's not The Wire. I guess, let me put it this way. The show has not been awful, but I also don't think it's been good so far. Like, I haven't been like, oh my god, this is so cool, I want to watch more. It's like, oh, it's just a show. It really does feel like a watered down version of The Wire. Like, just take The Wire without any of the interesting characters, and you get this show. Which I understand, because they're based on a real life story, I have to imagine they had to kind of tone down, like, a lot of personality that these people had, just because, you don't want to have, a guy give him a bunch of like funny lines or something that they didn't say, just because it would make him feel like a TV show character rather than like a real person. But I don't know, these characters are so far not interesting to me. And you can say as much as you want, like, oh, well, they're based on real people, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's a show. Like, I'm not watching a documentary, I'm watching a television show, and it needs to be entertaining for me to be interested. So, like, fuck, I couldn't tell you half these characters' names. Now, if you guys watch my reactions, you know that it takes a while for me to learn their names. But, like the DOJ lady, I just learned her name is Steele. Didn't know that at all from the first episode. We got Jenkins. I can't tell you any of those cops' names. They all are cops, though. They're not criminals. I thought they were criminals because I thought they killed that woman in her apartment, but they were just like intimidating her with a gun. So they're just crooked cops. And just like The Wire, I feel like one of the themes of this show is that, like, oh, it's the systems in place, but I don't really feel it as much with this show. Now, granted, I'm only on episode 2, but still, it feels like, they throw lines in there where it's like, oh, it's been this way forever, blah, blah, blah. But it really feels like they're painting these cops in a very criminal light, which, fair point they are. But I'm not getting the same kind of theme of, like, oh, this is an institutional system at fault here, the way that I did The Wire. Now, I understand they can't, it's a much more compressed timeline. They don't have 5 seasons to develop this, but, it's the show's fault for putting all those Wire callbacks, because I'm thinking about The Wire as I'm watching this, but I don't know. Regardless, what else do I have to say about this? I would say that it's the politics angle. It's there, the modern politics. I don't know. All these characters, the way their dialogue comes off too, they're all just like kind of preaching. The cop, like, she meets with like a cop, and he's like, "We used to be better than this, but we've let the community down because of these actions, and it's all these systems have caused this cascade of." And it's like, who talks like this? Like, it's like they're all giving like a civics lesson, like, this doesn't feel like real dialogue. It feels like exposition. So I have not been a huge fan of the dialogue. I don't know, the way it all looks too. I don't know if it's just like the way they filmed it or whatever. Looks I don't know, just like realistic, but also just it doesn't feel like cinematic to me. Which I don't know, maybe that's the theme they're going for, but yeah, I felt disappointed in this one primarily because of the callbacks to The Wire. It made me think of The Wire, and then I was judging this one more harshly. People oftentimes like to say, like in these, like when I did my Better Call Saul reviews, they're like, you can't compare this show to Breaking Bad, and I was like, no, I absolutely can. That show is a prequel to the show. You know, it's like I can absolutely judge it to the standards of Breaking Bad. But this one, I feel a little bit worse judging it to the standards of The Wire because it's not The Wire. It's I guess we might call it historical drama because it's based on real life, but you know, I think it's fair to look at it kind of like that light. It's a crime drama set in Baltimore dealing with corrupt cops, institutional problems, The Wire. They're using a wire. So I don't feel that bad about comparing it, especially since they're reusing lines. I wonder, though, how much of this show, like how much of David Simon's success is owed to Ed Burns, who was the co-writer of, or co-creator of The Wire. He was a Baltimore cop who later worked as a teacher in the Baltimore City schools. And I've said before, my favorite season of The Wire was season 4, which dealt with the school system. And I almost wonder if, like, when you take that element out of there, it doesn't make for as good of a show. You know, Burns has a different perspective on cops and you know, the schools and all that kind of stuff that added just this great element to The Wire. Again, not saying David Simon's a hack, because, you know, I think he's made some great stuff, but, you know, we'll see. I'll reserve full judgment for later, but I keep saying I want these reviews to be short, and I end up talking for a long time, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe I have a lot to say, so... regardless, thank you guys for watching. It's getting late, so I'll probably watch the next one soon, but talk to you guys when I do. Hey, what's up, everyone? Back again with another episode reaction. I apologize if I sound weird. I'm a little bit under the weather, but I thought I would just kind of relax, just watch an episode, and just get my reaction to it. So, this is part 3. We're halfway done now. I think there's 6 parts total. And, you know, as I've been saying this whole time, it's been a little while since I watched the last one, like maybe a week or so. So all the details are not super fresh in my head. And I do have to reiterate that it is a little bit confusing. Like they're just jumping back and forth in time. Again, seeing how all these characters ended up where they end up later, which is, you know, getting caught. Now, the more and more I watch it, the more and more it kind of becomes apparent that this is a very, you know, negative view of the police, arguably rightfully so, given that this is a real case of corruption, and so, you know, if the main case revolves around police corruption, you're going to see a lot of that. We do get some other, you know, views of the police. Like we've got good police with, like, I think his name is Suitors. He's the guy played by Marlowe. He was a cop in this one. And it's funny, I just realized that Dookie is a cop too. He's a like a normal, you know, kind of cop. So again, we're seeing constant Wire figures. We've got Herc as the police union rep. And so, like I was saying, it's a very negative view of cops. I think, you know, not unjustifiably so, but one of the problems, at least so far, that I've experienced, maybe as we watch more of it, we'll see more and more, is this kind of idea that, you know, The Wire tackled a lot of, like, you know, corrupt police and, like, corrupt institutions, and it felt like a really, like, systemic problem that there really wasn't a solution for. a lot of these cops are just trying their best to get these criminals within the bounds that they can. And I understand this is not The Wire. They're not tackling the exact same themes, but the implication I've been getting more so is that, like, oh, Baltimore could be fixed if these people, just weren't so, if these cops just weren't so evil, if the politicians weren't so corrupt, which, true to an extent, like, I agree with that, but, again, The Wire had this very kind of nihilistic view that, it's almost not any one individual person's fault in there, it's the systems themselves encouraging this, and I haven't gotten that feeling from this show so far. It felt to me more like, no, it's a bunch of self-serving people who are ruining all this, which I think is a very naive kind of take. Like, there are corrupt cops and stuff like that and bad cops in there. But we had to look at, like, Baltimore as a whole. And the problem with focusing only on police corruption is that we miss those kind of the context that The Wire showed us about the whole city and money and why it's run the way it's run. They tackle a little bit of this here, but, we haven't gotten that picture. Now, again, there's more episodes coming up, so they might deal with that. But I'm hoping we get a more complex, look at the problems rather than, what I was worried about going into this, it was just going to be like, cops are bad and, that's why all this stuff happens. Of course, bad cops who did what they did. I'm not trying to defend these very corrupt cops in this unit here. But we have to understand why they're doing and give them a fair shake. So, also, we have not really got any kind of criminal element in here, which, I think is if we're going to look at these cops and why they've done what they've done, it would be fair to look at also the criminals that they're chasing and be like, yeah, if they use horrible methods, that's one thing, but if they're using it against, like, one of the things that The Wire did well was that, like, guys like Stringer and Marlowe and Avon were, doing horrible stuff on the street, which kind of made it, like, more understandable when the cops broke the law or did what they did to try to get them. Again, it's about giving that whole look. But we haven't seen any real criminals. In fact, there was one scene at the end here where they were trying to make the cop feel bad because he stole money from this drug dealer. And then they're like, well, guess what? He got killed because you stole his $10,000 he owed his drug supplier. And I'm like, am I supposed to feel bad for that guy because he did this? Like, yeah, I mean, that sucks that this cop broke, the law, and he shouldn't be a cop if, you're supposed to turn that money over. But I'm not feeling sad that this, drug dealer got robbed and then got killed by his supplier. I mean, maybe that wasn't what they were trying to go for, but they played it like, oh my god, if you just hadn't stolen this money, he would still be alive, this young father. And I'm like, he's a drug dealer. I'm not saying that, like, anyone deserves to just be shot for that, but the dude made his own bed, so but maybe that's just my conservative values talking right now. But regardless, like I said, I think just one of the general problems, which is to be understandable, it's a mini-series, right? It's much more limited in the scope, is when I'm naturally comparing it to The Wire, which, again, I don't think it's unfair to compare to The Wire, just like I don't think it's unfair to compare Better Call Saul to Breaking Bad. You're using the same actors from The Wire. You're using elements of dialogue, elements of motifs that we've seen from The Wire in this show. You're obviously, trying to be like, hey, Wire fans, come watch this. It's a different story, but still. So I think it's fair to compare it to that and be like, I understand you can't show everything, but I would love to get more of a hint of that. And again, they might do that. So, but anyway, I've just been repeating myself at this point. Thank you guys. I know I look like shit and sound like shit, but hopefully it'll be better next episode, and then we can talk more about the show. So, talk to you guys then. Hey, what's up, everyone? Back again with another reaction, and just watched part 4. I just realized the room is really messy, so I apologize for that. I'm getting everything set up in here. I recently added all the sound paneling. You can't really see it in the video, but hopefully it sounds better. I don't really know. And I also apologize. I have a cut on my tongue, so I probably sound like an idiot when I'm doing this. So hopefully you can forgive that. But part 4. Again, I don't have too much I want to say about this episode, like the things that happen. The main thing is just that we learn more about Wayne Jenkins. You know, we get not a better side to him, but we get like a reason, like, oh, why cops, you know, a lot of cops love him, because he really kind of stands up for them and like defends them. He buys food for them during the riots. He helps you know, injured cops. So we can see that, okay, this guy has a little bit more layer to him than you know, just being a crooked, selfish cop like some of these other ones are. Again, though, I think that my main thought as I was watching this, because the plot and the story are so like jumbled, it's hard to follow a little bit, but more so what I'm getting from this is pretty much only Jenkins is the really interesting character. I couldn't tell you like almost any of these other characters' names just because they're so like, there's nothing interesting about them. And I think there was an opportunity here to let more of their personalities come through. And again, you could make the argument that these are real people, and so maybe they are boring in real life, whatever. But this is a TV show. This is not a documentary. You can add flavor to them without compromising the story. Like there's like this FBI lady and this I think it's like an internal affairs cop that he looks just like grumpy and sleepy all the time. Nothing interesting about these two. There's a narcotics cop. There's like a young one. There's like a slightly chubby one. Boring. Nothing interesting about them. You know, Poot was in here for a while, but I actually don't even see him recently. Yeah, the only ones that kind of like stick out are the ones that are played by wire actors. You know, the what is it called? The police commissioner. You know, he's all right, I guess. I mean, I don't really get a sense of who he is, but really, they're all just like very milquetoast, very just uninteresting. I feel like we could have explored their lives a little bit more. You know, maybe if this was more of like a linear narrative, we wouldn't have had to do so much exposition to like get people to understand. Like, I get it. He's a corrupt cop. All these cops are corrupt. And maybe they're building to something of like, again, maybe they're going to explain why these cops did it or lead to some kind of larger theme about the issues of Baltimore. But for now, a lot of these characters are just like bland. That was really what I was thinking this episode. I was like, I don't really care about any of them besides Jenkins because he's the only interesting one and he's the villain, you know? So, although again, we have set up that like, you know, he was corrupted in his, you know, kind of young police days. So we're seeing how he develops. So he is a little bit more of a character. Yeah, there's this one, I don't know if he's a cop. I think he might be a cop. The fat one that Jenkins like brings the drugs to in this episode, he looks so fucking dumb. He looks like a fucking fat man child. I've seen him before in some stuff. But yeah, he looks like really stupid. But yeah, other than physical appearances, there's nothing I can really like judge these characters on because again, we don't get any of their kind of personality or home lives. The only one we kind of get a little bit of is Marlowe cop. What's his name? Suter, I think his name is. We get a little bit of him in each episode. Maybe we get a little bit of like whatever cop they're interrogating, but yeah, again, even this one that we were watching this episode, the one who gives back the money or he hides the money, he doesn't take it. Even he is just like, that's his only character trait is he didn't take the money, and he looks slightly concerned while they were doing what they're doing. Again, nothing interesting about most of these guys. So I think the series is suffering from that regard. But we'll see if they pull it through. But I've learned not to kind of really expect that. So yeah, that's really everything I had to say. And I know I'm not really going over the plot. It's because the plot really doesn't matter to me in this one. It's the crooked cops are getting arrested, you know. And we're getting so many scenes of him being corrupt, and I think maybe they're trying to do that to be like, look at how corrupt these cops are, and really just like shock you. But I'm not really shocked too, because again, the age we live in right now, I'm fully aware of a lot of this stuff. You know, it's the why it was so shocking. Probably the audiences who like they were not used to media portraying the cops like this, bad cops, inefficient cops. But in a decade since The Wire came out, it's like, yeah, this is not surprising or shocking in the least. So devoting all this time to it and being like, oh my God, can you believe what these cops did? Like, yeah. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But definitely, my reaction so far has just been kind of, meh. It's all right. It's fun to see all the Wire actors back. That's kind of cool. But... And most of them are pretty good actors, too. There's a couple in this series who I was like, they're like giving a lecture when they act. They're like, here's the problems with Baltimore, you know. But, you know, it's whatever. It's something to watch. So, anyway, we got 2 more after this. Hopefully, they pick things up and it'll be something interesting to talk about. So, talk to you guys then. Hey everyone, back with another episode reaction, and just watched part 5. And again, I apologize if you can hear the fan going. It's just hot and I need the air. But yeah, I don't know what to say about this episode. It's kind of more or less, I feel like I've been, you know, feeling the same thoughts as I watch each of these. You know, I'm not super like engaged with what the storyline that's happening. It's like, come on, get to the action here. Like I understand the build up, but especially this one in particular felt like nothing has moved forward at all. Like, you know, we had the arrests like maybe 2 episodes ago, and yeah, we're getting more information about, you know, these guys, but especially this one, it felt like nothing new was discussed really. Yeah, I mean, like, no, there's more flashbacks and stuff, more of that, but nothing really that really was like, oh, this changes things or this makes it better or worse. You know, it's like the only thing we learned about Wayne is, you know, he was, you know, having some sex with some chick, but that's really not a big reveal because I think we've seen him doing that already. So yeah, in terms of the plot, I don't really have anything to say. I guess the biggest thing is just they're building up what's going to happen to Suter, because he was partially involved with Jenkins back in the day. I think he feels guilty about, you know, kind of going along with it. We don't know the full extent of how far he went along with it, but maybe he'll turn himself in or something. I don't know. But yeah, in terms of the plot, really, I don't have anything to say about this one. And then maybe the next one I'll have something to say when it's all wrapped up. But yeah, it's just a series of things related to the investigation that are not super memorable. And like I've been saying this whole time, the characters for the most part are really not interesting or memorable in any way. They're just kind of bland. And I especially noticed this time that the writing, again, I think I've said this before, but the writing really feels like very much like a writer writing it. You know, it's like these characters are all talking about these high concept things, and they don't feel like individuals. They feel like mouthpieces for David Simon's thoughts on the war on drugs. Like, she's interviewed like a bunch of different cops, and the cops are always like, especially this last one, the guy she was talking to who wrote the book or whatever, you know, it's so much, you know, just, you know, the war on drugs, it creates a divide between citizen and, you know, the police department, and it causes, and it's just so, like, people giving a lecture. It's not how people talk. And I'm wondering how much of The Wire's success is owed to Ed Burns. I know David Simon is really the one who gets a lot of praise for it, but the more and more I watch this, the more and more I kind of feel like I'm missing a little bit of Ed Burns' influence. Like, I feel like maybe he added a little bit of realism to the show, whereas this one, I'm not saying it's not realistic, but these don't feel like the Baltimore City police that I saw in The Wire. Now, again, you can make the argument that those were fictional characters or whatever, and these are real people, but still. Kima, McNulty, Lester Freeman, The Bunk, even the shitty ones like Santangelo and the two who were like trying to retire early and stuff, and like they fell down the stairs. Presbeluski, all these characters had such like interesting personalities, and they had different ways of speaking, communicating, and all these cops are just so like milquetoast and bland. Even the criminal ones, and when they're interrogating them, are like, you know, just not interesting. They're not saying interesting stuff. They're not cursing. They're not doing whatever. They're just like, yeah. And so then on July 14th, we robbed this team person, and it was wrong. And again, I just, there's no like soul to this series. It's just like factual and clinical. Again, there's some wokeness to it. Not super like, and to the point where I'm like annoyed watching or anything like that. I mean, some of that is to be expected, but you know, it is what it is. And I kind of feel like I can feel a little bit of like, David Simon has a love for like homicide detectives, because he wrote, you know, Homicide, the book, where he shadowed them for a year. So he's got a lot of respect for the homicide detectives, and he really, really seems to hate every other cop besides homicide cops, which I can feel that coming through in writing here. So I don't know. I really, my reaction so far has just been meh. Like, I'm not really excited to watch these episodes. I'm excited to see the finale, just to see, like, oh, okay, how do they wrap it up? But this is an interesting little experiment to view David Simon. It's not really an enjoyable, like, you know, quote-unquote Wire experience. Despite having a lot of the same actors, there's none of the soul from The Wire. There's not even really a lot of, like, the lessons, you know? Like, The Wire tackled a lot of, like, you know, socioeconomic conditions, unfairness, police brutality, but it felt like the characters were exploring that themselves and learning lessons themselves. This show really feels like a lecture where it's like, here's how you should feel about this. And again, not in a super annoying woke way, but just in like kind of an annoying writer kind of way. It's like the writers like think they're so much smarter than the audience, and they just want, you know, we're going to spell it out for you so you get it here. But rather than letting the characters live their lives and, you know, experience these things for themselves. So I feel like I ramble on sometimes during these, because I have nothing to kind of ground me in the story, because I don't really give a shit about, like, you know, these random scene beats where they're just going through the interrogation or the woman playing her little like flute. It doesn't amount to anything, you know. There's no symbolism here for me to analyze. There's no you know, deeper meanings and things for me to pull from this. But I don't know, we got one more episode. I'll probably watch it here tonight, and we can finish up our thoughts on the whole series. So talk to you guys then. And we're back with the final episode. Let me get the mic a little closer here. Yeah, so that is the end of the series. Just watched part 6. And I can share my thoughts on the whole thing. I really don't think it's any different than what I've been saying. It was kind of interesting to see, like, how all these, like, politicians were corrupt too, like the mayor, the new police commissioner, all that stuff, and how basically there's no real changes. And it's also interesting to see how, I guess, the show has, like, or how Baltimore has changed since The Wire came out. Now, again, I shouldn't judge the city by either of these, because they're both, you know, shows. It's not necessarily real life, even though they do take great pains to be realistic. You know, you can't just get your source from one thing, especially a fictional thing like The Wire, or a semi-fictional show like this one. Yeah, it's based on real life, but of course, any kind of media is going to twist the facts and stuff like that. But it's interesting to see that, like, again, the systemic problems that, you know, we've seen have not gotten resolved. At the end there, it says that Baltimore is still like one of the most, violent cities in America. And the reason for that are real, issues that go beyond just, again, not just one single thing. Like, they talked about how the Freddie Gray case, means that the police are not really enforcing the laws, and so people are kind of doing whatever they want. But beyond just that, we see that, like, power structures and accountability just really don't, work here. Arguably, they don't really work anywhere, but especially in a poor city like this, which doesn't have any kind of real booming industries other than like drugs. I'm sure there's other industries besides that, but drugs are a huge part of how people are going to make a living here. We see how these problems just, again, there's really no solution, at least no easy solution. David Simon's whole thing on the war on drugs and, how, he hates the war on drugs, and, rightfully so. It's a horrible system that has not worked. We see characters like, Bunny Colvin in The Wire, try to address those, but with their own problems too. Remember, Amsterdam, had its own issues with like not enforcing the drugs, like any kind of legislation against it means that people were, dying in the street. And yeah, there was hope that maybe some social work could come in here and change things. But I really, I don't really know how to feel about the whole drug situation, because I see them as, it's a very terrible thing. I mean, we lost, one of the great actors from the show, Michael K. Williams, who played Omar, to drugs. And here's someone who has completely escaped poverty, and we see that drugs have still really hurt this person. So, and of course, he's not the only famous person. There's many, many celebrities who have been hurt by drugs, and I'm of course a freedom of choice guy. Like, I mean, people are free to make their own decisions and suffer the consequences as long as you don't hurt other people. But to me, yeah, just real like unrestricted, like, yeah, do any kind of drugs you want, does not seem like a great idea to me, just considering how much it's destroyed people's lives. But again, I can see how this war on drugs has not worked either. So that's the real tragedy of The Wire and this show too, is that we see what doesn't work, but we're not really given an answer that does work. Even the whole, like, there was this whole subplot where it was like, if the Justice Department would just admit the war on drugs was a failure, everything would be fine again. Even that, I don't think it's going to solve things, because even if they completely decriminalize drugs, in Baltimore, it's still a failing city of, where the industry is not there. A lot of people are in poverty, and a lot of people are going to turn to something like this to make a living. So I don't know how we can, really solve that, or if maybe there is no solution. Maybe things just have to play out their course, and people have to just do what they're gonna do. So again, I know this is all philosophical. I know it's not really talking about the show, but like I said, we own the city. There's not much to talk about. I've said my complaints over and over again. The ending did not change any of that for me. Again, Wayne was a semi-interesting character, but again, this whole kind of focus on who he was just not that interesting. A lot of the Wire cast was underutilized. I thought the whole Sean Suter, it's a hard name to pronounce. I thought the whole thing with him was crazy. How he killed himself, basically. Wasn't sure exactly what they were trying to say with him. I guess he was just someone who made one bad mistake and I guess, paid for it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if killing himself was the best idea. I doubt the police would even, if he just admitted it, maybe he just lost his job, or maybe even just been suspended. But I guess he was fearful of ending up in jail too. So, yeah, sad to see that character go. Yeah, a lot of the Wirecast underutilized. It's a fun little thing to be like, how I kind of describe this as, it's like, I guess if you're like a Wire addict, like if the Wire is like heroin, this is kind of like a cigarette. It helps a little, but it's not nearly the hit you're looking for. So hopefully that metaphor kind of lands. But yeah, I really don't have anything else to say. I mean, I'm glad I checked it out. It was cool to see a lot of these characters again, but ultimately, this does not feel like a continuation of The Wire. And I don't know what meaningful stuff I could like maybe take away from this to appreciate The Wire more. I guess the only thing I appreciate more is Ed Burns' influence on The Wire, because David Simon, and George Pelicanos wrote this. George was one of the main writers on The Wire, and they just didn't knock it out of the park. So I'm wondering how much maybe Ed Burns is the real secret ingredient to The Wire's success. But that'll be something to think about more as I kind of dig more into The Wire and stuff like that. But thank you guys for watching. We'll watch some more shows here soon, and I'll talk to you guys then. We own this channel. Russell, Sean, Heart of Markness, Logan, Clean, John Reyna, Jesse Sterling, Andrew Stewart, Ops Gracing Media, Daz J. Kit, Conan Higgins, Sam Cedarland, Don Lucania, Celery Man, Jenna Marie Johnson, and Brad Smith Studios.